A pleasant good evening and welcome to SAT TV's Channel 9 Evening News. I am your presenter, Nisha Charles. Thank you for joining us. Among the major developments, police investigating death of middle-aged man. OECS authority meeting gets underway in St. Vincent. Putin opponents match in Moscow. Dr. Daru Pacers secures back-to-back wins. Details of these and other stories after the break.
Fathers, we've heard you loud and clear, and we're doing it again, but this time it's just for you dads. Get your chance to win $2,000 in the first ever Quartz Super Dad competition. That's right, Big Daddy. To help you celebrate Father's Day even more, we're giving you all the chance to be crowned Quartz Super Dad. Now all you have to do is complete all the tasks on our list at Quartz in the time allotted for your big chance to win. Pick up rules and regulations at Quartz now, and sign up for your chance to win a grand prize of $2,000 in cash. It's the first ever Quartz Super Dad competition. Sign up now, Big Daddy, and you can win $2,000 in cash.
When it comes to health and beauty products, nothing beats the skincare, hair care, and beauty products from Lander. For babies, try Lander's baby oil, baby powder, petroleum jelly, and baby shampoo. For the rest of the family, use Lander body lotions and Lander body washes, shampoos and conditioners, which are available in a range of scents. And for spotless and flawless skin, use Lander's vanishing cream. Come into Astafans and select the Lander beauty products to satisfy everyone in your household. Astafans, right place, right price.
Thank you for staying with us. Now for the details of the news. Mayor of Roseau, Mr. Cecil Joseph, says he has major plans for the city and the improvements and changes so far are minor compared to the visions and ideas which he has in mind. He says the main issue is keeping the city tidy, and he will do everything he possibly can to ensure that his city is tidy, attractive and eco-friendly. Mr. Joseph believes that the Roseau City Council will make sure that Roseau remains a prime city.
The Roseau City Council, in its quest of ensuring that the city of Roseau remains a prime city, that we are the cleanest city of the entire Caribbean. I remember once that some persons tried to challenge me on the issue, and I made them to understand that we could go to every Caribbean country and come back and do an evaluation of the city of Roseau. And I'm very proud today that an institution, an international organization has recognized what we have done, and in so doing have given us in the 10 best, not in the first 15 of the world, but the 10 best city. And I'm sure that the criteria would have included, the involvement of people, the safety net of the people, the tidiness of the city.
He says he has spoken to the police chief to see what can be done to make his ideas a reality, but there are no actual answers at the moment because there is a lot more to be discussed.
Well, I know that I have spoken to the police chief to see how best we can deal with that issue, because that's a very serious issue, especially during the period of cruise ship. We really want to see how we can best solve that. We don't have the actual answers because the vagrants really is increasing in numbers. Although they're not very large numbers that we may have seen in other Caribbean countries, but one is just too many.
The mayor also said that there is an increase in vagrancy, and the first thing that needs to be done is to have the vagrants removed or at least placed somewhere safe.
I remember when I started the program, when I first indicated that to get rid of the vagrants, we have to first move them away, and the family can get conscious of ensuring that those family members of theirs who are on the road, homeless and need care, should be given care. We have since then seen central government themselves come on board in ensuring that these people get the kind of care that is required. But I think what we now need to do is to lament much more to the families and to close friends and to loved ones, to really hold the hand of these people who really require those kind of assistance. And if we don't do that, we're going to see an increased number. So it's not necessarily about the council or necessarily about the central government, but we as a family need to see how we too can network with other entities.
With the hurricane season declared officially open on June 1st, 2012, Dominicans are being urged to stock up on all necessary supplies since you can never be too prepared for a natural disaster. Former National Disaster Coordinator Mr. Cecil Shillingford says since the start of the hurricane season, 2 systems have developed, which was Alberto and Beryl, which only affected the east coast of the United States. This is the first time since 1908 that 2 tropical storms have developed before June 1st. Tropical Storm Beryl, which made landfall near Jacksonville Beach, Florida early on May 28th, was the strongest pre-June tropical cyclone to make landfall in the United States.
However, I just want to point to the recent prediction or updated prediction of the Gray Klotzbach team, where they have moved from their April position of 10 named storms to 13 named storms, which now makes it just about an average hurricane season. 12 named storms, of which 6 are hurricanes and 3 are intense hurricanes, would be an average season. But we are being told that we are going to have 13 of these 13, 5 are going to be hurricanes.
Mr. Shillingford says that despite all predictions, no one can predict which storm or storms will make a landfall, so we all have to be prepared for the worst while hoping for the best.
So the most important thing is sheltering. They should ensure to be in a safe place as much as possible. If your home is not safe, then you move to a public shelter. Therefore, you should in advance know where your public shelters are. If for some reason you have issues with that public shelter, you do not feel safe there, find another public shelter or try to move in with family and friends who may be in a safe place. So sheltering is key. The other thing is your vulnerability. If you happen to be living close to a slope, if you that could cause some problems in terms of a landslide.
Persons living near the waterfront should also move because there may be heavy sea swells. Mr. Shillingford pointed out that it is very important that persons stock up with adequate supplies. Stocks should last for 2 to 3 days in the event there is a significant impact, which would lead to stores taking a while before reopening.
In terms of food items, you need to have canned meats or fish, if that's what you eat, biscuits or bread, anything that you do not really have to cook, because people would not be worrying about cooking at that point. A lot of water, water for drinking and also water for other things you would have to do around the house, cleaning and ensuring that even you yourself, you are clean by taking a bath and brushing your teeth and things like that on a regular basis. Then if you're on medication, it's important that you have extra stock of medication, because again, you do not know what the impact is going to be like.
The former disaster coordinator added that Dominicans also need to be mindful while building, especially close to rivers, ravines or streams, as the power of water was demonstrated through the effects of Hurricane Ophelia, which brought heavy rains and flooded many places.
Building in the center of what some people refer to as a dry river or dry ravine is certainly a no-no. Again, given the kind of problems we can see in Dominica. Half an hour or half a day of intense rain turns a dry river into a full-fledged flowing river. So people have to look at all those things.
He went on to say people must consider where they are going to build, because when you build a house, it is an investment for life and would have to ensure that it is a safe place. The Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development has honored retired educator Asostale Seraphine for over 40 years of service as a teacher and principal. Mr. Serafin, who retired in 2011, has been ill for some time and was unable to receive his award at the ministry's Retirees Award ceremony held recently. Mr. Serafin was made principal of the Dominica Primary School in 1982. He would later serve as principal of the Laplane Primary School and the Salibia Primary School. He ended his career as principal of the Saint-Sauveur Primary School. Chief Education Officer Mr. Stevenson Hyacinth visited Mr. Serafin on Friday at his home in Saint-Sauveur, where they reminisced about his years as a teacher and principal at several schools in the East. During the visit, Mr. Serafin recounted his days as principal in Dominica, awakening at 3 a.m. to make the daily trek by foot from Good Hope to Dominica through the Petite Soufriere Rosalie routes. Mr. Hyacinth, who also served as Education Officer Eastern District while Serafin was stationed at Salibia, remembers him as a committed educator who would go to the extra mile for the benefit of his students. Mr. Hyacinth pointed out that he always worked hard towards the development of his staff and the schools where he served. Mr. Serafin expressed gratitude to the Ministry of Education, noting he was honored to have contributed to the education of young people in Dominica. Residents of Grand Forks can now have their minds at peace after the groundbreaking ceremony was held for their $2.3 million water supply system. They had been exercising their patience for the past 2 years with regards to not having proper water supply. According to the representative of the village, Ms. Shirley George, the community has been asking for a proper water security for many years. Ms. George says the children have had so many difficulties due to this water issue that their principals had to ask them to go home most times. She says the dream of having a proper water supply system has now become a reality.
We all know that during heavy rainfall, it was an issue, and the children, the Grand Forks school children who were sitting right there with us, had many problems where the principals, both past and present, had to send them home because of no water. And we know the water has to be used for the washroom, which is a very essential part of their curriculum. The community can recall, and maybe other officials can recall, that Grand Forks water supply came about through bamboo.
Minister of Gender Affairs, Ms. Gloria Shillingford, added that this day is truly significant for the people of Grand Forks because they can now look forward with anticipation for a new water system.
This occasion is indeed special because the people of Grand Forks can now look forward with much anticipation that soon they will have improved and adequate water supply in Grand Forks, mindful that this project has been in the making since 2006. This contract signing and groundbreaking ceremony marks another achievement for this Dominica Labour Party government.
Acting Prime Minister Mr. Reginald Austrie passed on an important message from the Prime Minister Mr. Skerritt to the Grand Forks residents. He stated that Mr. Skerritt does not want not a minute delayed on this project, seeing that they have already waited all these years.
And it asks him to extend to you his best wishes on this major accomplishment. What he told me to tell you two things. One, to the contractor, Nawasco and the ministry, that he does not want 1 minute delay on that project. He said that the people of Grand Forks waited long enough and we have to take them out of their misery. So 1 day delay. And a little later, I will have to advise that the council.
Mr. Austrie made it clear that the government is dedicated to developing the water supply for the people of Grand Forks.
You gave me a mandate to ensure
ensure that your community was served with a proper water supply. Approximately 2.5 years later, you're now seeing the fruition of your needs. This water supply will consist of a new intake to be built some distance above the existing intake, a new 6-inch supply line from the intake, a 60,000 imperial gallon storage tank, and the necessary link up to the community of Dominica.
Good things come to those who wait, were the words of Parliamentary Representative for the village, Mr. Ivo Stevenson. Mr. Stevenson says over the years, residents have brought in several complaints and still managed to be patient, although they did not have sufficient water for domestic use. He believes water is life and hopes that the new water system will have a positive impact for the villagers. Police have launched an investigation into the death of a Portsmouth man who was found lying motionless on a sidewalk in the corner of Goodwill Road and Federation Drive on Monday, June 11th at about 10:30 p.m. Police Public Relations Officer Inspector John Carbon has more on this story.
11th of June 2012. The body was identified as Camius Timothy, a homeless individual originally from Portsmouth. The body was pronounced dead at the scene by a medical practitioner and was then moved to the Princess Margaret Hospital mortuary pending post-mortem examination. A coroner's inquest will be convened.
Inspector Carbon noted that foul play is not suspected at this time and the cause of death is undetermined at this point. Health practitioners are being urged to exercise special care when dealing with patients who are infected with HIV/AIDS. Mrs. Julie Frampton, coordinator of the HIV/AIDS Response Program, says cautionary measures must be taken to prevent the spread of this deadly disease. Mrs. Frampton made this remark at the opening of a workshop which aims to deal with tools and resources for the nutritional management of HIV/AIDS.
HIV has plagued the region for the last 30 years. We have seen new infections continue to occur. We've introduced services, prevention, treatment and care, and support. So in an effort that we continue to provide quality care to the people living with HIV and AIDS, and what you're about to be exposed to will not only help you with the clients with HIV and AIDS, as well as the other clients that you serve on a regular basis, talking about CNCDs.
Mrs. Frampton urges the health practitioners at the workshop that at the end they should share the information they would have learned throughout so more people will be sensitized on dealing with HIV/AIDS. Nutritionist of the Caribbean Food and Nutrition Institute, CFNI, Ms. Deborah Hemmingham, says for the past 2 decades or more, health professionals throughout the Caribbean region have had interest in nutrition and HIV. However, Ms. Hemmingham said their efforts were hampered due to the absence of algorithms, tools, and guidelines tailored to meet the specific needs of persons living with HIV/AIDS.
In partnership with the World Food Program, the Caribbean Food and Nutrition Institute undertook a project to develop and implement the much-needed algorithms and resource materials. The final product being the publication entitled Tools and Resources for the Nutritional Management of HIV/AIDS in the Caribbean. As countries around the world aim to fulfill Millennium Development Goal number 6, which includes combating HIV/AIDS, high emphasis is being placed on universal access to HIV/AIDS treatment and care services.
Ms. Hemmingham pointed out that nutrition plays a critical role in comprehensive response, support and treatment of HIV-infected persons, as there are complex reactions between nutrition and people with HIV.
HIV progressively weakens the immune system and leads to undernutrition. In turn, undernutrition weakens the immune system, thus worsening the effects and contributes to a more rapid progression to AIDS. Hence, undernutrition can both contribute to HIV progression and also occurs as HIV progressive to AIDS. Hence, providing early and adequate nutrition support and care may be one of the most important interventions for people with HIV.
The objectives of this two-day workshop are to introduce participants to algorithms for the nutritional management of HIV/AIDS, to train participants to use algorithms in the field, to introduce participants to resource material to be used, and to train participants to use these materials in the field.
Principles that will be imparted in the workshop are based on the physiological effects of HIV on the human body and the principles of nutritional science. These general nutrition principles are also applicable to other health and disease processes. Some of the nutrition principles that will be imparted include nutrition in antenatal care, evaluating the nutritional status of individuals, basic principles of meal planning and balanced diet, improving iron nutrition for persons with iron deficiency, management of undernutrition, calculating caloric requirements for a healthy body weight, and basic principles of weight loss.
All health teams and hospital officials are present at the workshop, which began on Monday, June 11th and ends on Tuesday, June 12th. That's today. We are on our way to developing a sporting culture. Those were the words of Trevor Shillingford, sports coordinator at the launching of the 2012 Quenchy Soft Drink Primary School Cricket Championship on June 11th. He wants the players to be agents of change in their school and communities.
When you move on to the secondary schools, please let the authorities at the secondary schools know that you have been exposed or you're coming from a sporting culture at your primary schools, and when you get onto the secondary school, please demand of your sports teachers that you want to continue experiencing sports. And do not end there. And say to them that I am wearing a colored t-shirt representing my house, so I want to ensure that I can use this t-shirt on the field of play and represent my house in cricket, football, basketball, whatever the sporting discipline may be.
He says the competition has brought forward several outstanding young cricketers who represent their school and will have the opportunity to represent their country at the under 13 and 15 levels.
We have Daniel Dupini and Taz Tavernier from the Soufriere primary schools. Dupini is from the St. Luke's and Taz is from the Soufriere primary school, who have gone on to represent Dominica not only at the under 13 level but at the under 15 level, and they did so just recently in April in Grenada.
His Worship Cecil Joseph, Mayor of Roseau, commended Mr. Shillingford for being so involved in his role as sports coordinator. He says it is not very often you find leaders who think outside the box.
Trevor has gotten the public to be involved. Trevor has gotten the government to be involved. Trevor has gotten businesses to be on board. And Trevor, I really want to say to you that you did not take your job as a job, but you took it with a passion, and today we are seeing the results of that passion.
Josephine Gabriel is very pleased to be partnering with the sports division again to be sponsors of the cricket championship. Representative for Josephine Gabriel Distributors Limited, Mr. Gerald George, says in these hard economic times, they at the company are still partnering with the sports division.
If we want to continue to see our local cricketers making it onto the West Indies team, I know just last month we were very pleased to fill up the Windsor Park Stadium to go and watch our own Shillingford perform and take 10 wickets. But for that to continue, for us to have other players making it onto the West Indies team, we lead the program like the under 13 program. So I'm throwing the challenge out there to the other corporate companies out there to come on board and partner with the sports division, partner with Josephine Gabriel so we can continue the under 13 program, so we can have other players making it through to the national team, the Windwards team, and making it to the West Indies team.
After the opening, the teams were inspected by the officials present. We now go to Ms. Deslyn Joseph for tonight's court news.
In court today, Kenton Alexander of Pottersville pleaded not guilty on the charge of possession of an offensive weapon. The matter was adjourned to September 25, 2012 with Kendall Alexander as surety. In more court, Shane Edwards of Independence Street at around 9 o'clock on June 10th broke some windows and concrete blocks belonging to Curtis Bell of Cottage in the sum of $120.29. He pleaded guilty to the charge of malicious damage and was ordered by Magistrate Candia Judge to pay compensation to Mr. Bell in the sum of $120.29, forthwhile a 1-month imprisonment.
Thank you, Ms. Joseph, for the court news. This has been the local segment of the news. Coming up next, regional highlights.